The room at the Davidson family headquarters had a timeless air to it. The polished oak table, though slightly worn, still carried an air of authority, surrounded by executive chairs that had hosted countless meetings, secrets, and unspoken rivalries. The walls, decorated with framed accolades and family portraits, whispered of years gone by. None of those photos featured me. I'm Clara Davidson, but to my family, I was a forgotten name. They hardly spoke it anymore. To them, I was just the family failure, the one who didn't follow the script. They spoke about me with that mix of pity and disdain at board retreats and charity galas. Poor Eleanor Davidson's daughter, they'd say, the one who turned her back on the family legacy. Today's urgent family meeting was called to address the future of the business, but I knew better. Things were worse than they realized. I quietly observed from the far corner of the room, a silent witness to their pomp and posturing. They had no idea that the empire they cherished was already mine. Uncle Mark took the seat at the head of the table, his tailored suit strained slightly around the middle. The numbers don't lie, he declared, gesturing to the screen behind him. Our most recent quarter has been our worst in over 2 decades. The board's growing anxious. My cousin Henry, freshly promoted to senior VP, muttered. The board is here to support us, he added, looking smug. If only they knew the truth, that the board now answered to me. Over the last 3 years, I'd orchestrated a series of acquisitions and proxy votes through my company, Horizon Industries, quietly securing control over Davidson Enterprises. The software division is sinking, my brother Liam added, tapping away on his tablet. He'd been made CIO last year despite lacking any real tech experience. Maybe we should consider offloading it. I nearly smiled. Their most valuable asset was the software division. They simply didn't have the vision to evolve. At Horizon, we'd already developed the breakthrough software that would take it to the next level. Clara, what's so funny? Uncle Mark's sharp voice broke through my thoughts. Do you find something amusing about our situation? The room fell dead silent. Even Henry put his phone down. I simply said, I was thinking about solutions. Uncle Mark's face flushed. Solutions? From you? The one who gave up a director's role to chase some tech dream? 5 years ago, I turned down the offer to become marketing director, a position designed solely to keep me busy while my cousins ran the real business. Instead, I used my inheritance to launch Horizon Technologies, focusing on digital innovation and strategic acquisitions. I have some experience in corporate restructuring, I said mildly. Elliot laughed. Experience? Running a small tech startup from a shared office space? This is a $2 billion zero-cents corporation, Clara. Leave the real business to those who understand it. I thought about my real office, the penthouse floors of the city's premier skyscraper. The shared office they mocked was just a cover, a way to keep them underestimating me while I built something they couldn't possibly imagine. My father sat silently, watching the exchange unfold. He had stepped down as CEO last year, handing control over to Uncle Adrian, despite my warnings about his outdated management practices. Dad had always been weak when it came to Uncle Adrian, too eager to keep the peace in the family, no matter the cost. Clara's company has had some success, Dad ventured weakly. Maybe we should hear her out. Success? Uncle Adrian scoffed. Clara, your company is a sideshow. The rest of us are running a real corporation. You're nothing but a distraction. The word nothing echoed in the room, the sting sharper than I cared to admit. How many times had they dismissed me over the years, when I challenged their old-fashioned methods, when I suggested updating the tech infrastructure, when I dared to build my own path instead of simply playing the role they'd picked out for me. Can we focus on actual solutions? I have a lunch reservation at Le Cirque, my cousin Rachel said with a bored tone. I glanced at my watch. In exactly 4 minutes, everything would change. Horizon's acquisition of Riverside Ministries was about to be revealed to the board, followed by an emergency press release. That the family would soon realize their empire had just been sold right out from under them. The tech division isn't your problem, I said, earning a few glares. Your business model is outdated. You're losing market share because you refuse to adapt. How dare you? Uncle Adrian slammed his hand on the table. I've run this company for a year now with the same principles your grandfather established. We don't need your Silicon Valley nonsense here. I thought about my grandfather, the original innovator. He had built this empire with bold ideas and forward-thinking moves. Everything my family now rejected in the name of tradition. Those principles are exactly why you're failing, I replied calmly. The market has changed. Technology has evolved. But Davidson Enterprises is stuck in the past because you're too proud to adapt. Enough, Uncle Mark roared, his face turning red with anger. You lost the right to criticize this company when you walked away from it. You're worthless to this family, worthless to this business. Just then, his secretary burst through the door, her face pale. Sir, Mr. Davidson, the board, they're calling an emergency meeting. Horizon Technologies just bought controlling interest in Davidson Enterprises. The room exploded in chaos. Henry dropped his Mont Blanc pen. Rachel's phone clattered to the table. Uncle Mark stood frozen, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Horizon Technologies, my father whispered. But that's Phoenix Global Enterprises, I finished for him, standing slowly, though I prefer to call it by its full name, Horizon Technologies. We're the largest digital transformation firm in the country, specializing in modernizing outdated companies exactly like Davidson Enterprises. The silence was absolute. Years of dismissal, of mockery, of being called worthless, all of it crystallized in this moment of absolute victory. That's impossible, Henry stammered. Horizon is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You just have that little startup. I pulled out my phone, projected the Horizon Technologies website onto the screen. There was my photo listed as founder and CEO. There were our acquisition records, our global offices, our market valuations. The little startup was a cover, I explained, enjoying their shocked expressions. It let me build something extraordinary, while you were all too busy mocking me to notice. Every time you dismissed me as worthless, I bought more shares. Every time you laughed at my little company, I grew stronger. Rachel had gone pale. The tech division will be completely restructured, I confirmed, along with everything else. The board meeting in 10 minutes will confirm me as the new CEO. The press release goes out at noon. Uncle Mark finally found his voice. You can't do this. We're family, he sputtered. Family? I laughed softly. Was it family when you called me worthless? When you dismissed every idea I had? When you turned this company into a playground for your entitled children while running it into the ground? My father stood up shakily. Clara, please. We can talk about this. If you're enjoying Clara's journey and want to see how her story unfolds, don't forget to subscribe and join us for the next chapter of her powerful transformation. You won't want to miss what happens next. We could have talked years ago. I cut him off. You could have listened when I warned you about Uncle Adrian. When I tried to show you how to save this company. But you chose your roles. The dismissive uncle, the weak father, the mocking cousins. Now, I'm choosing mine. The secretary was still standing by the door, clutching a stack of papers. Sir, the press is already calling. They want comments on the acquisition. Uncle Mark sank into his chair, all his bluster evaporating. Comments? Comments on how my worthless daughter outsmarted us all. Oh, I'm not worthless anymore, I smiled. I'm your boss. The room erupted again. Elizabeth started crying, William was yelling into his phone trying to reach his lawyer, and Uncle Mark looked like he might have a stroke. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I walked to the head of the table, took Uncle Mark's seat and opened my laptop. Now, shall we discuss the restructuring plan? I have some ideas about the tech division. The family that had dismissed me for years sat in stunned silence as I began outlining my vision for their company, my company now. The daughter they called worthless had become the most powerful person in the room, and we were just getting started. The next few hours passed in a blur of chaos and revelation. The board meeting was brief and decisive. My ownership stake left them no choice but to confirm me as CEO. The press release went out exactly at noon, and within minutes, Davidson Enterprises' stock price jumped 15%. The market, it seemed, approved of the change in leadership. My family, however, was falling apart. This is illegal, Uncle Mark shouted, pacing the boardroom after the meeting. You must have manipulated something, broken some law. Everything was perfectly legal, I interrupted calmly. Maybe if you'd spent more time actually reading financial reports instead of bragging at country clubs, you'd have noticed Horizon Technologies buying up shares over the last 3 years. Elizabeth was frantically texting her lawyer friends, but I knew it was useless. I'd made sure every aspect of the takeover was ironclad. Your position as Chief Innovation Officer is terminated, by the way, I told her, along with William's VP role. We'll be bringing in people who actually understand technology and business operations. You can't fire us, William exploded. We're the Davidsons. So am I reminded him. The Davidson you all called worthless. How does it feel to be fired by someone who's worthless? My father sat quietly in the corner, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Where did we go wrong? He muttered. How did we not see this coming? You saw what you wanted to see, I answered. A rebellious daughter who refused to play by your rules. It never occurred to you that I was playing a different game entirely. Just then, my assistant Catherine entered the room. Miss Davidson, the transition team is ready, and the auditors would like to begin their review. Uncle Mark went pale. Auditors? I smiled. Of course. We need to understand exactly how much damage your leadership has done, those country club memberships charged to the company, the personal expenses hidden as business costs, the questionable loans to family members. I'm sure the SEC will be very interested. You would destroy your own family? Elizabeth whispered. You never treated me like family, I replied. You treated me like an embarrassment, a failure, someone who needed to be hidden away or controlled. Now you can experience what it feels like to be powerless. My phone buzzed. The first wave of changes was ready to be implemented. Catherine, please escort my relatives to security. They'll need to clear out their offices immediately. This isn't over, Uncle Mark growled, but his voice shook. The family won't stand for this. The family doesn't have a choice, I said. Phoenix owns 58% of Davidson Enterprises now. I own your jobs, your futures, and every secret you've tried to hide. As security arrived to escort them out, I turned to my father. You can stay, Dad, as an advisor, if you're willing to actually listen this time. He looked at me for a long moment, seeing me clearly, perhaps for the first time. When did you become so powerful? I always was. You just never noticed. The next week was a whirlwind of changes. The old Davidson Enterprises logo was replaced with a sleek modern design. The tech division, far from being sold off, became our central focus. I brought in a team of innovators and digital experts, people chosen for talent rather than family connections. The family, predictably, didn't go quietly. Uncle Mark tried to rally the other shareholders, only to discover that most had already sold to Phoenix. Elizabeth attempted to leak damaging information to the press, but her stories of the worthless Davidson daughter who ruined the family business were overshadowed by Phoenix's soaring stock price and innovative new projects. William tried a different approach, showing up at my office with an olive branch. Come on, Clara, he wheedled. We're cousins. Surely we can work something out. I've learnt my lesson. I leaned back in my chair, his old chair actually, and studied him. Have you? What lesson would that be? That I underestimated you. That we all did. But we can fix this. Make it a real family company again. It is a real family company, I replied. Just not the family you wanted it to be. Your position has been filled by someone qualified. I suggest you update your resume. He left in tears, another first in the Davidson family history. The audit revealed exactly what I'd suspected. Years of financial mismanagement, nepotism, and hidden corruption. Uncle Mark had been funneling company money into his personal accounts. Elizabeth had hired her friends as consultants, with massive retainers. William had been trading company stock based on inside information. The SEC will want to investigate, my legal team advised. Give them everything, I instructed. Every document, every transaction, every hidden account. Let them see exactly how the mighty Davidson family did business. My father, watching from his reduced role as advisor, seemed to age years and weeks. They'll go to jail, he said quietly. They made their choices, I replied, just like they chose to call me worthless. The fallout was spectacular. Uncle Mark faced criminal charges for embezzlement. Elizabeth and William were banned from trading securities. The Davidson family name, once synonymous with old money privilege, became associated with corruption and failure. And through it all, Horizon rose. Our stock price doubled in the first month as investors recognized the potential I'd seen years ago. The tech division, properly funded and staffed, launched innovations that put us years ahead of competitors. The company culture transformed from an old boys club to a meritocracy, where talent and creativity thrived. 6 months after the takeover, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly reports. The view from the top floor was spectacular, but I wasn't looking at the city. I was looking at a photo on my desk. It was the last family Christmas before I left Davidson Enterprises. Everyone smiling, successful, proud, and me, standing at the edge, already planning my rebellion. "Would you like me to hang them?" "Take down all the old ones," I instructed. "This isn't a family company anymore. It's something better." That evening, as I worked late in my office, my father knocked on the door. He looked tired, humbled, but there was something else in his expression. Pride, maybe. "Finally," he said. "I underestimated you. You all did. Can you ever forgive us?" I considered the question, thinking of all the years of dismissal and contempt. "Forgiveness isn't the point, Dad. This was never about revenge. It was about proving that success doesn't have to look like what this family imagined. It was about building something better than what you tried to force me to be." He nodded slowly. "You certainly did that. The company, it's extraordinary now. It always could have been. You just couldn't see past your own traditions to recognize it." He turned to leave, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Even if I don't understand how you became this person." "I was always this person," I said quietly. "You just never saw me." After he left, I stood at the window, watching the city lights come alive. Somewhere out there, my relatives were preparing for Uncle Mark's sentencing, their lives forever changed by the worthless daughter they'd mocked. Elizabeth was selling her penthouse to pay legal fees. William was interviewing for entry-level jobs, learning humility the hard way. But I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about the company, about its future, and about the possibilities that came with breaking away from the past. Every decision I made, every setback I overcame brought me to this moment. It wasn't about revenge. It was about proving that I am worthy, even when no one believed in me. If my journey has sparked something in you, I want to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to fight for something others dismissed? How did you turn adversity into strength? Share your experiences below. Let's keep building a community where we lift each other up no matter the odds.